Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of What's New in SwaggerHub Explore. Hard to believe we're already on episode 3. Delighted, as always, to be joined by the product manager, Temil Sanchez. Temil, why don't you say hello to everyone?
Hello, everybody. Hopefully, everybody's as excited as I am. This is month 3 of launching SwaggerHub Explore, and really excited to show you what's new.
Excellent. Cool. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to drill into some of the new features that have dropped this month. And we're going to be, again, kind of focusing in on the transaction history capabilities within Explore. And there's 2 new capabilities that have been added there. One is to delete, or do a bulk delete, should I say, of transactions that are in your history log, as well as being able to add single transactions to your spaces, or indeed select multiple and do a bulk add to spaces as well, so that they're nicely organized for the next time you come back and want to quickly start exploring the API that you're working on. So Tamil, as always, why don't you give everyone an overview as to why you focused on these features and what problem they're solving?
100%, Frank. And just to give a little bit of a broader overview, let's not forget that Explore exists to make life easier when you're interacting and trying to consume APIs and build APIs, so that you understand what the transactions look like, what type of inputs you have, what type of outputs. And we know that those transactions increase really rapidly, right? And the whole point of the transaction history itself is, again, go back to previous episodes to learn more, but at a very high level, is you can easily find interactions that you have executed in the past in case that you want to re-execute them, or maybe you found an error in production and you want to see compare what the request inputs were back then when you tested it, and better understand, the difference of, what you sensed before and why things are failing currently. So the bulk delete option allows you to very quickly delete items that are irrelevant to you, right? You want to keep the history nice and neat and usable. We know that filtering makes that easy, but again, if you have any clutter in there, you're ensuring that you have exactly what you need, and things that don't really matter and you won't use in the future, you can make sure they don't serve as clutter. And we have also added the capability of adding transactions in bulk to spaces. This is something that I got approached by a lot from our current users, right? It just allows you to very easily add APIs that you use over and over and over again into a nice little spot where you can reuse them, very, very quickly. So again, it's two functionalities specific to history. It makes your life much easier when interacting with many APIs daily. And it allows you to move on to your next part of your process, right? Again, Explore is meant for you to go in and understand the APIs, interact with them, test them very quickly, and then move on to your next task of whatever you're doing in the moment, either implementing or consuming APIs.
Yeah, yeah, I think very, very sensible enhancements to be added to the transaction history, following on from last week's ability to be able to drill into the details. So it's just kind of taking it to that next step. Now you can look at what you did previously. You can say, oh yeah, that's useful, or it's not useful. If it's not useful, you can remove it. If it's useful, you can persist it to a space so it's easier to find, and you don't have to be using the transaction history as your predominant way for looking back at what you've explored already or what API calls you've made. Cool, so I will jump on to giving a quick demo of the 2 features. So as always, here is SwaggerHub Explore. I'm going to take a look at my history to see what I've been doing recently. I see here I have a bunch of calls to skim endpoints. So I've been working on some system for cross-domain identity management calls with the Packflow system. So I see a lot of those. I've also been making calls to the APIs on OpenAI, playing with some image generation, and calling some local Kafka services as well. So I see there's a few error calls here that I'm not too interested in. Especially, I actually ran out of tokens on my OpenAI account, so I'm just going to clean up those. They're not too interesting to me. So selecting multiple here, scrolling down to the bottom doing that delete, I have an ability then to confidently delete all of these calls, knowing that all of that data will be removed from my client, so it's not going to be hanging around there. So all of that's gone. And what I actually want to do is I want to create a space for these skim endpoints. So I'm going to just select a few of these ones for the users. I have more down here as well. So I'm going to select those 3, and I'm going to again scroll down to the bottom where I see all of the action buttons. Going to hit add to space. I'm going to click create new space because I don't have a space for packed flow skim. So create the space and a new API, and this is the users API, and I'm going to add all of those to the space. And actually, while I'm at it, I also want to keep my calls to the schema endpoint as well, because that's very useful just for me to be able to browse and explore the schema of that skim endpoint. So I'm just going to select the schema endpoint and again add to space. I'm going to browse for the space that I've already just created, which is packflow skim, and instead of putting them under the users API, I'm just going to create a new API here for schema. Hit add to space, and now if I go back and browse to my spaces, I can see that I have indeed a nice packed flow skim space created. And if I expand that, I have my users API and my schema API, and all of the calls there are ready to go. And I can hit send, invoke that API, and get some details back, which is just what I want. So in essence, yeah, that's the demo. Short and sweet, but steady steps along adding functionality to make it easier for me to manage the APIs that I'm exploring, organize things effectively, and clean up any clutter that isn't of interest to me anymore. So Temil, with that, I think we have successfully covered the new features. So again, for everyone that's out there, if you haven't tried SwaggerHub Explore, it's a free tool. You can find it on explore.swaggerhub.com. Simple registration form, and away you go. You can start exploring RESTful endpoints and Kafka topics locally on your own device, privately behind your firewall, or indeed if they're in the cloud. So thanks very much, everyone. Temil, any last words?
Yeah, so great demonstration, Frank. That was that definitely depicts what we see every day when we're implementing and consuming APIs, whether REST or Kafka, and being able to maintain our environments clean and usable just serves for a lot of less friction when implementing API. So hopefully this makes sense to everybody and it's valuable. Again, we definitely appreciate feedback, and yeah, hopefully we see you on the next episode.
See you next time. Happy exploring.
Happy exploring, guys. Bye-bye.